Good morning, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you to the organizers for inviting the UN Environment Program and the UN Food and Agriculture Organization to present the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration and our 10 principles for good ecosystem restoration. As a background, I would like to recall that the General Assembly issued the resolution that establishes this UN Decade with the main aim to prevent, halt, and reverse the degradation of ecosystems worldwide. And UNEP and FAO are invited to lead the implementation of the UN Decade in collaboration with the Rio Conventions and other agencies of the UN system. We've built a strategy for the UN Decade, which you can find online, that is built around a principle called New Power that says that information no longer only spreads top down or bottom up, it spreads mostly sideways in the digital age. So we have built the entire decade around a system of partnerships where partners are empowered and enabled to share information about the UN Decade. The 10 principles for good ecosystem restoration are the result of such a partnership effort. We have worked together with IUCN, with the Society for Ecological Restoration, across FAO and UNEP, and with over 300 experts who were involved in the development and peer review of these 10 principles. The principles apply globally across all biomes and ecosystem types, and they underpin a full set of ecosystem restoration activities and create a shared vision. They might need to be complemented by ecosystem-specific guidance on ecosystem restoration, and we are working through the best practices task force of the UN Decade and the monitoring task force, in addition to our science, finance, and youth task forces, on creating and uploading existing guidance, for example, from the organizations represented here today. These are the 10 principles at a snapshot, and I will briefly introduce each of them in turn. The first principle links ecosystem restoration to the Sustainable Development Goals. We live in the UN Decade on ecosystem restoration, but also in the UN Decade of Action for achieving the SDGs. Principle 1, therefore, links ecosystem restoration to the achievement of the UN Sustainable Development Goals and the goals of the Rio Conventions. Principle 2 is people-focused and human rights-focused. Ecosystem restoration should promote inclusive and participatory governance, social fairness and equity from the start and throughout the process and outcomes. This reflects decades of experience, including with the ecosystem approach and several sets of principles that have all come to the same conclusion, that the long-term success of conservation, restoration, other natural resources management builds on a broad societal acceptance. Therefore, the goals of ecosystem restoration must be a matter of societal choice. Ecosystem restoration can include many types of activities. Of course, in some cases, it can, for example, be removal of trees if they're invasive species. In other cases, it can be planting of trees. In a third case, it can be natural regeneration. It depends on the local biophysical and socioeconomic context. So ecosystem restoration includes a continuum of restorative activities. For each of these principles, of course, there's a lot more information in the actual document that explains the principles, and you can find that on the UN Decade website, as well as on IUCN's, on SER's, and on UNEP's and FAO's websites. The fourth principle lays out that ecosystem restoration aims to achieve the highest level of recovery for biodiversity, ecosystem health and integrity, and human well-being. Important here is the combination of those aspects, so that we focus ecosystem restoration not only on one single objective, but keep in mind that there is a broad range of benefits that should be pursued, not only for achieving those benefits, but also for ensuring that ecosystem restoration is done holistically. To give you one example that we deal with a lot right now, the single-minded focus on carbon sequestration or on nature-based solutions for climate mitigation, of course, carries a lot of risk if the focus is only on maximizing carbon. These risks are social, they're ecological, they are also long-term for the integrity of the carbon pool that is created, the risk of reversals, the risk of leakage, and the need for free, prior, and informed consent, all, of course, apply also to ecosystem restoration. Principle number 5 says we need to address the causes of degradation. It's not enough to cure the symptoms. That can be very short-lived and over time also expensive endeavor. And we again see this a lot with the current tree planting hype, that often there's a pressure on the price per tree, and that means people take shortcuts. If we don't address the drivers of degradation, planting trees can be a very short-lived and expensive failure, and we have seen this in some cases. Luckily, we know enough to do it right if we follow these principles, and including this one, addressing the underlying causes of degradation. We need to integrate knowledge and all types of knowledge, including traditional ecological knowledge, and promote their exchange and integration throughout the process. This is especially important for ecosystem restoration because much of the knowledge that we need might be local and not readily available for either investors or international organizations who come to a local area to be restored. Based on decades of experience from various aspects of conservation and restoration, we know that there have to be measurable goals. They have to be well defined for the short, medium, and long term, and again, combine ecological, cultural, and socio-economic objectives. We are always setting restoration in the local ecological, cultural, and socio-economic context, while also considering the larger landscape or seascape. This is important when considering that ecosystem restoration can happen at many spatial scales. It can be very small scale, a lake or a pond or a river, but it happens in a larger landscape context. And both the causes, the underlying causes of degradation, and the long-term success of restoration depend on seeing both the local but also the larger surrounding landscape or seascape context. And that also applies to the political context in which the restoration happens. Monitoring, of course, is key not only for ensuring that the relevant financial resources for ecosystem restoration can flow, but also for adaptive management over time. So we need a sound monitoring and management throughout and beyond the lifetime of the project or program. The last principle is about policy integration. There are a number of policies and measures that promote the long-term progress and can foster replication and scaling up. To give you one example, we are operating in most countries in a context where agricultural subsidies range in the billions of dollars per year, even in many developing countries. Often these subsidies are focused on activities that can further degrade the environment rather than restoring it. And as long as those enabling conditions are not set right, small-scale or even large-scale ecosystem restoration efforts might fail over time because the policy environment is geared towards undermining the long-term success of ecosystem restoration. So we have to integrate our experiences, our advocacy, our knowledge into the policies at national, regional, and global level. And this is one of the main aims of the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration, to bring together our now over 70 partners in the 5 task forces to have an effective advocacy, knowledge and learning platform for ecosystem restoration. Briefly on the UN decade at large, we have a vision in the strategy where for the health and well-being of all life on Earth and that of future generations, the relationship between humans and nature has been restored, and where the area of healthy ecosystems is increasing and where ecosystem loss, fragmentation and degradation has been ended. This focus on a new relationship between humans and nature is very important because it goes beyond the goals of restoring the 1 billion hectares of degraded ecosystems on land that governments have already committed. And hopefully there'll be a relevant similar target for marine and coastal areas. But the relation between humans and nature is at the heart of the UN decade, and this might take longer than 10 years. It is, in fact, an attempt to introduce ecological literacy to the human civilization as a clear precondition for us to live within the planetary boundaries. The decade has 3 pathways for achieving that vision. First of all, we're building a global movement that many organizations and even more individuals are already a part of. We will have a digital hub for that movement where you can meet, find each other, exchange knowledge, resources and experience. We're raising awareness through our partners. We work with a number of education organizations and working on the ethics, on economics and on financing mechanisms. All of that to generate more political will and having key leaders as champions for restoration, to change legislation and policy, and to redirect subsidies, for example. All of that can only happen in the context of the sufficient technical capacity. And this is, of course, where many of the participants in the symposium here come in, because you have the knowledge, the experience of doing this right. What we see emerging is a multi-billion-dollar carbon removal market. That is coming, and it's coming very fast. Nature-based solutions will be a part of that. And here I have to say it will be a part of that for better or worse. But if it's for better or worse, depends on us. It depends on you and on how much your knowledge of doing this right can influence the large investments that are now being programmed by the private sector and by the public sector. Our visual identity is aligned with the SDGs, and we have a feature on the website where you can download that logo for free. You can use it for any non-commercial purposes without any approval from the UN. You can even change the logo to make it your own and adapt it to your own organization's logo to link it with the UN decade. One quick word on the task force on best practice, because that is most relevant, the most relevant one of our 5 task forces of best practices, monitoring, finance, science and youth for this symposium. We have over 130 members from more than 40 organizations, and we, within that platform, aim to collect good practices, make them widely available, and feed them into the digital hub and into key decision-making processes. There are a number of resources and other tools on the UN Decade's website, decadeonrestoration.org, now in up to 8 languages. We're aiming to have more languages available for you, but again, this depends also on how many people participate in the new power approach of the UN Decade. For example, by translating our tools and resources into your national or local languages. So join Generation Restoration. If you hashtag Generation Restoration on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, you get automatically pulled up on the UN Decade's website where we see this global movement unfold. With that, thank you very much again for the invitation, and I look forward to questions.